Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with a movie reaction. This time around, I am starting off my backlog of movies that I'm going to do. I'm going to record a bunch of movies, probably not get them up on YouTube at a consistent rate, but I'm going to just record a bunch of them because it's easy to record, it's harder to edit. But anyway, so this will be the first of those, because the last one I did was Ghost in the Shell, great movie, but I never really did anything after that, so anywho. Mobile Suit Gundam 1, the movie. So this probably seems random. Here's the thing. I don't know anything about Gundam, except that it's mecha, and I'm pretty sure Mobile Suit Gundam is the mecha. But I know there's, I don't want to say it's like a genre, basically, but there's a category of mecha anime. And, I don't know, I just felt like getting into that, so I googled, what's a good way of getting into mecha anime? And the first thing is Mobile Suit Gundam. This is the movie, not the series, but I do know that the movie is based, the three movies, there's three of them, and I do hopefully plan to do all three of them at some point. But it's basically like a compilation of the series, of episodes from the series, with just some new bits of animation as, like, you know, connecting threads to make it a proper movie. So yeah, this is pretty much where I saw, like, yeah, if you want to start with mecha anime, you start here. So that's what we're going to be doing. Yeah, but again, I don't really know anything about Mobile Suit Gundam other than mechas. The only other mecha anime I've really watched is Code Geass, and that's not really a mecha anime, that's an anime with mechas in it, so yeah. We are watching this in the sub, because it's available on YouTube, and I have no idea where I would even find a dub, and I don't even know if it's a good quality dub or not. I know this is, I think, from the 70s, so, you know, I thought I was getting old school animation on Ghost in the Shell. We're going to go even older school than that. Probably the oldest school. Like, I don't think I've ever really watched an anime this old, so this will be a new experience. But yeah, I'll watch it, and I'll probably enjoy it. And yeah, we'll watch it along together. It is an anime, and you know how Japanese companies are with using anime footage here on YouTube. So if you want to watch the reaction, the whole edited nice reaction to Mobile Suit Gundam Movie 1, it's down in the description and in the pinned comment. There's two links there. One will say watch the reaction highlight here. That'll take you over to Internet Archive. There's two versions there. There's one 1080p, one 720p to help out if the 1080p is not loading properly. There's always a 720p that'll hopefully load a bit better. The second link is just it's the next backup link. That'll take you to the same reaction just on Google Drive. You can watch it there if you want. And then yeah, there's also another link at the end, which is the full unedited reaction that is over on my Patreon page for full-length patrons. So yeah. So you can do any of those, and whichever version you watch, I do highly encourage, when you're done with the reaction, to pop back over here to this YouTube video for the discussion, because we are going to be talking about the movie. So yeah, without further ado, let's just dive in at the deep end with Mobile Suit Gundam 1. Here we go. Oh, well, it definitely feels like I just watched a season of anime all at once. Holy crap. Oh, I mean, this is really, like, you gotta keep up with this, man. Like, it's done well. It's done very well, you know? Even though, you know, you can tell pretty much, like, that it is supposed to be, you know, multiple episodes and stuff, because, you know, I mean, it's not as, like, bad as something like, you know, the Star Wars, the Clone Wars movie, which literally is just 4 episodes sewn together, just without the intro and the outro. So that one is a bit more obvious. This one, I imagine just because there's so much they're putting into this, like, I don't know, I think they did it well enough. The only thing, and this is especially towards the beginning, and stuff, the pacing and the passage of time I felt was very off, And I can't really fault the movie for that, because, especially because you're trying to get into everything, you're trying to learn all the characters, you're trying to learn the world, I'm sure, someone watching this who has seen this series, they can probably watch this and it'll be just fine. Me coming into it as a brand new, fan, basically, now, like, it's fine, but it's just, like, it gets better in the second half, like, the pacing issues and some of the, like how much time has progressed gets better. Like, and I don't know if I could have used, like, a narration, if it was something like, well, and then after that harrowing escape, the white base, decided to hide out near the near the coastline where everyone was gonna tensions relaxed or something. Like, if there was some sort of a narration, or even just something on the screen. Granted, it would have been in Japanese, and I don't know if YouTube would have had a translation for it in the subtitles, but if it had something like that, even just like, 2 months later, 3 months later, 4 days later, something like that, maybe that could have helped with the passage of time. But other than that, that's kind of my only real complaint about it, I wrote down a lot. And boy, oh boy, that was something. It's interesting too, because at the beginning of this video, I said, well, one thing, the only other mecha anime I've seen is Code Geass, and that's not really a mecha anime, that's an anime that heavily features mechas, And honestly, I mean, this kind of almost feels the same way. This one's a little more, like, there's a bit more emphasis on the mechas themselves, I feel like. But, yeah, I don't know, like, it's a war story, and the primary weapon is mechas, You've got the Gundam, which is ridiculously strong. But then you also have the gun tank and the gun cannon, and then you have all the Zukas, and then the Red Comet and everything. So this one I feel like there's more to it, but yeah. But man, if you want to just talk about, like, the length of this movie, which this was only 2 hours and 20 minutes, that's an acceptable length, and especially for a movie that's compiling so much from the original anime. That's impressive. That's an impressive time right there. I will say, it definitely feels long. Not in a bad way. Like, sometimes you'll watch a movie and you're like, oh my god, I wish this would end. This time I'm like, yeah, this is long. I'm exhausted, but that's just because we had a lot of stuff to cover, Like, now going and thinking back on the beginning of, everyone's just hanging out, you've got Amuro, and he's just, it's just kind of this, engineer kid and stuff, and he's got his friend, Frau, like, and then, and war starts, or war, comes to their side, to side 7, and then all of this, and now coming to here, it's like, boy, we went through a lot. I feel like Amuro had like 4 different character arcs in this show, Like, it was ridiculous, but it was good. I enjoyed it. And some of it I could see working a bit better in series form. See, now I'm curious, because when I looked up, how do you get into mecha anime, and people said Mobile Suit Gundam, obviously, because it's like pretty much the mecha. It's interesting because I think more people suggest the movies than the anime. Maybe because the movies, like, you know, if you don't want to get into this really, really long series, you know, and I don't know how many episodes it is, but if you don't want to get into this long series, 3 movies is a pretty decent commitment, you know? So, I don't know, but I'll be curious if anyone here, anyone watching the video, is a mecha fan or a Gundam fan. Which would you prefer, actually? Would you prefer the movies, or would you prefer this series? Now, one thing, especially for how I chose this, is I chose the movies because that is so much easier to react to, you know? Especially just with the way I make videos. Committing to a series, yeah, that does... Especially something, if this is like I don't know how many episodes this is, but yeah, like, committing to 3 movies, I can do that. And, you know, I'm trying to backlog movie reactions so I can just edit them as I go. But yeah, let me look. Mobile Suit Gundam. Okay, well, the anime series only says 43 episodes. Yeah, so it only says 43 episodes, but again, for me on the channel, you know, if I do that, you know, in the normal style that I do these videos as, you know, 1 episode per week, that would still take me, you know, almost a year to do. That's a lot of stuff, and that's just for 1 series, you know. So there is a bit of... So for me, it does kind of work out better being a movie, you know? It's just, a lot was packed into that movie, you know? And I know, speaking of Code Geass, I know that Code Geass does have, like, 3 movies that basically retell the series, and Code Geass is 50 episodes long. So it's longer than Mobile Suit Gundam. But they basically do the same thing. Now, I also saw there might be, you know, some things that are different in the movies, like plot-wise, but I'm not sure. I mean, I don't really know what. You guys can inform me if there was anything different in this, assuming you've seen both Mobile Suit Gundam the movie and Mobile Suit Gundam the show. So yeah, there's so much to kind of go over, and I don't want to spend, you know, 2 hours talking about the movie, but we're gonna go through a lot of it. I'll probably, instead of going in order, I'll probably just go with, like, you know, specific topics. I guess first off, we can talk about Amuro, our protagonist. An interesting character, and honestly, because yeah, this is I feel like this, you know, sort of highlights the difference between this and a typical sort of movie, where I feel like most movies would not have this level of character development in the first movie. Because again, it feels like Amuro goes through like 4 different character arcs, you know? But that works out if this was, you know, 15, you know, 18 episodes of the series. You can go through 4 character arcs in 18 episodes, you know? So it does sort of work out, but in a movie, it means we get a lot with the boy. We get a lot with him. And it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. So we have him, you know, the son of this, you know, great engineer, you know, great scientist who developed the Gundam. Now, I feel like they've intentionally left it open as to if his father is still alive or not. Now, I know he was blasted into space because of Amuro using the sword on Jean. To think all of this happened because Jean got trigger happy, you know? But yeah, I feel like they're kind of leaving it open to the dad could still be alive, you know? But Amuro, he went in and piloted the Gundam, which was pretty cool. And yeah, he used the manual. And I like this sort of, you know, overarching thing of, you know, the white base being this sort of amateur operation, you know, because they don't have many people left, you know. The captain and everything, like, you know, he got, you know, mortally injured and everything, so now Bright has to take over, and now he's been promoted to lieutenant. You know, you've got someone who is sort of a pilot, but doesn't really pilot military vehicles. but she's all you got, so she has to be the pilot, you know. You've got Sayla there as well. Frau, you know, pulling her weight. Like, so many people, you know, pulling their weight and everything. But it is very much a ragtag operation, and also on the fact that they do still have civilians from Side 7, you know? So that's also a really interesting thing. But I like that sort of thing, that it's, you know, it's very ragtag. Honestly, it does kind of feel, you know, kind of Star Wars-esque. It feels like Star Wars if you took out the Jedi, basically. Like, you do sort of have your Luke Skywalker-esque protagonist who, you know, is sort of thrown in at the deep end in this whole rebellion thing. And yeah, it's really interesting, and I like that. And again, I feel like, you know, I mean, not to discredit the Star Wars movies, because they are good movies, especially, you know, the original trilogy, they're great movies, but the amount of character development and, you know, the amount of, I guess, just plot that Amuro has to go through in this, again, because it's a series turned into a movie, is really interesting, you know, where it's like, you know, you have this where he's, you know, kind of being like, well, I mean, yeah, I piloted the Gundam, but I'm a civilian. I can't really do this. And now it's like, well, you have to step up. You have this responsibility now because you did that. Like, you can't, you know, go back on this. You have to do this. And you have to learn it. You have to not just rely on the Gundam's abilities. You have to become skillful. And he does. But then we do get some interesting points, like, even though in his first battle he did kill Jean and what was it, Denim? Those guys, he killed them with the light sword. He does, at least for a while, he has an issue with killing humans. You know, there's something about shooting, because I mean, I don't know. I guess he never, because he was, you know, hyped up on adrenaline in that first one, so he didn't really think about it. But there were multiple times, with the exception, I guess, of Char himself, where he had trouble with it, you know? He definitely had trouble with killing someone. But then all of that comes to a head when he meets his mother again. And again, this is one of those, you know, like, it almost feels like we watched 3 movies in one, you know, because of just how much stuff happened. But it's still great, you know? And yeah, honestly, that was an interesting thing too, just him, like, you know, he was, I mean, I don't know. So did he say he enjoyed it? I don't know. Is that the most replayed section? What is the most replayed section? It's interesting because I'm watching this on YouTube, which you can watch this completely free on YouTube. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. But it's the Gundam Info YouTube channel uploaded it completely, and it's a verified account, so it's a completely, like, this isn't just someone who just uploaded it to YouTube. I'm pretty sure they have all rights to do this, but the most replayed section here on YouTube is when Char betrays Germa. So I was gonna see. Oh man, see, and the whole thing with the mother thing was so long ago, but that was like the last fourth of the episode, the movie, you know. But there's something he says when he's in the ship, and I'm gonna see if I can find that real quick. Okay, he does say, like, he's not doing this because he wants to. I mean, like, yeah, like, I don't think. So I kind of questioned for a second, like, does he enjoy this now? And it's not that. I mean, honestly, you know, the boy is probably traumatized from everything that's happened, you know, being thrust into this war like this. But I don't know, but I mean, he definitely, well, I mean, he tries to cope with it, but he definitely has his bad moments. And, you know, the burnout towards the end was definitely one of those moments where he could barely handle it anymore. He's barely handling being a soldier, but he's trying to, like, throw himself into it, you know? he's trying to throw himself into it and just be a soldier, and it's like, don't think about anything else, Even though, yeah, he brought shame to his mother by just killing that man, But he's trying to convince himself of that, And that's a really interesting thing, that this sort of underlying message. I mean, it makes sense. Yes, war does change people, And you understand the mother who's so shocked and ashamed of what her son has become. But it's not really like, because she tries to think like, well, it's like, well, I raised him better than that. It's like, well, it was because his father raised him. Why did this happen? It's like, it's nothing like that, though. It's nobody's fault. Well, I guess it's Gene's fault, because he's the one who attacked Side 7, He was just there to observe. So, he's the one who went against orders, but, I don't know. But still, more to the point. I don't know. It's just amazing that I feel like in 2 hours and 20 minutes, this has done more than most war stories, at least like modern movie war stories normally do. I don't know. Maybe that's not right to say, but it's like, I like that this takes a very serious approach and shows, especially with Amuro, because he's the one in the Gundam, Whereas I'm sure it affects everyone. I mean, Frau lost her mother at the very beginning, Like, people lost people, But it is especially taking a toll on Amuro because he's the front line. Because he has to be the front line, He tried to sort of pass it off to Bright, like, oh, why don't you pilot the Gundam? And he's like, I can't. Only you can pilot the Gundam because you have the experience. You have the skill now. You have to pilot it. You have the responsibility of the Gundam, But all of that is clearly taking a toll on him. And if it's taking this much of a toll on him in the first movie, what are the other two movies going to be? Goodness. Boy's going to be broken by the end of this series. And he already kind of is, And yeah, that whole thing, like, he did his job, but that's definitely what led to the burnout segment, Okay. Other stuff in the movie. Char's an interesting character. So I have seen the character before. I've seen, like, the meme where he's, like, talking to the people or something. So I don't know when that's going to come in, but I'm pretty sure that's him. I'm pretty sure that's him in that meme, but he's a very interesting character, too. Because, yeah, it's like, he's not... I mean, he's a very skilled, soldier, and, he's the Red Comet. He's a very, very highly decorated soldier, but he is still subservient to the Zabi family, to Germa or Girin or the Duke or anything, where I guess they're the royals, but now he... I mean, I don't know. I don't know where we're going to go with his character. I almost wonder, like, are we going to lead somewhere like he's going to start gaining more power? And because, I mean, we do have Girin, and he's sort of more of the... I feel like he's more of the villainous one in the family, because you've got, Dozul and I think the one daughter, and then the Duke himself. The Duke himself seems to just kind of be there, Like, Girin seems to be the sort of Schneisel of the family. Like, he's the smart one. He's really in charge. And just down to the fact that he was the one giving the speech at the end. And it's like, oh, there he is, the dictator of Zeon, But it's curious, the vibe I almost get from Char? I'm almost getting like an Agent Smith kind of vibe from The Matrix. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but in a way of, like, in The Matrix, especially once you get to Matrix 3, he kind of becomes the main villain and not, the machines, the... whatever they were called. I don't know. It's been a long time since I watched the Matrix movies. But he sort of became the main villain, and then you had that moment, spoiler alert for Matrix 3, I guess, but you had that moment where the machines and Neo basically team up to take down Smith because he becomes such a problem. And I could almost see that happening with Char, especially with his betrayal of Germa, that maybe he is trying to rise in the ranks, you know? But if that is the case, he's going to have to deal with Giran. But I don't know, maybe. But he's definitely a very interesting character. So I enjoy that. And it's interesting to see his fights with Amuro as well, because it's a very clear, you know, skill versus raw power, you know, because the Gundam is incredibly powerful even compared to the Red Comet, but Amuro's skills, especially towards the beginning, were very lacking, and Char was able to take advantage of that, you know. So that's really interesting. But as the movie progresses, more and more time passes, which I'm curious, like, how much time has passed by the end of the movie. Is it, you know, months, a year? I don't know, but yeah, and now it'll be interesting to get a rematch, basically, between the Gundam and the Red Comet, you know? So, yeah. Other stuff. I did like that there were other mechas. You got the gun tank and the gun cannon, which were pretty cool. It's interesting. Man, they completely set up Kai, you know, just perfectly, too, because it's like he looks like an asshole, you know? He's specifically drawn to be an asshole. It's like he's a smarmy dick, you know? But as soon as he got into battle, all of that washed away because he's terrible. You know, he's a coward. And yeah, that was an interesting thing. You know, he just goes out there and like, they're shooting at me. And it's like, well, what did you expect, you know? But that was interesting. But I like having the backup. I thought the gun tank was pretty cool too. So that's Ryu and Hayato in there. It's 2 people in the gun tank, which is interesting. I like it. It's an interesting one. You know, the fact that it is specifically like, you know, a more limited one because it is on the ground. But I mean, it reminds me of the I don't know what the hell is it called, but the tank in Star Fox, you know, when you have to do a tank mission, which they're not always the best missions. You prefer to be in your R-Wing, but I like that, and I like, you know, I guess sort of what it affords as a good backup for the Gundam itself, you know. So that was pretty cool. And then yeah, everyone else on the ship is really nice. I like Bright. I think he's a good leader. Sayla V, but Sayla, who seems to be Char's sister. They mentioned that, you know, especially like that's way towards the beginning, you know. That's way towards the beginning. First 15 minutes that's already established and not brought up again. But I imagine we'll get more of that in, you know, in the other 2 movies, which I have to figure out when I'm going to. I guess I might as well just record them, you know, because again, I'm making like a backlog so that I can release them. But I don't know if the next movie reaction uploaded is going to be Gundam 2, but it'll be soon. That'll probably be the next one I record. So anyway, so yeah, but all of them are really interesting. Okay, maybe I'm missing the whole thing with Matilda, Lieutenant Matilda. Did Amuro like have a crush on her? Because he really seemed to be in the second scene where she's there. Like in the first scene, it's just like, okay, you know, she's a superior officer who's there to give them some aid, and then she leaves. It's in that next scene where, like, you know, he tries to like go up there, and they're like, you need to go to bed, you need to go to sleep. And he's like, right, you're right, ma'am, I will go to sleep. You know, it is important. And then, you know, he's like fervently like watching her leave through the window. It's like, did I miss something? I don't know. There's so much to try to keep track of that I'm like, wait, is that a subplot that he like has a crush on her? Like, I don't know. But Frau's about to slap him, I'm sure. So yeah, so that was interesting. We did have the setup with Germa. I did like Germa because, you know, kind of going back to the Code Geass comparisons, you know, you could say that Germa was sort of the what the hell was his name? The Clovis, Prince Clovis. You could kind of say, like, you know, it's his death that, you know, rallies the enemy to, you know, go and really fight more. But he was way more competent than Clovis in Code Geass, you know. So I did enjoy that, like that he was more that he was a very competent soldier. The problem was that, you know, Char was better, you know, and so he was able to beat him. But yeah, it does, like, that's sort of the first one where I'm like, okay, so what's Char up to, you know? Like, because this whole time I'm like, okay, so, you know, he's deferring to Germa, and I didn't even realize that Germa was, you know, like, where he was in the, you know, the royalty, I guess, the hierarchy. But that was interesting, too. But yeah, but he completely led him into a trap. But why? What is Char up to? I'll be curious. I'll definitely be curious to see more of that. So yeah, but he definitely sort of like Clovis in that, you know, that's the, you know, the catalyst of the enemy to really, you know, lay into our protagonists, you know. So that's interesting. And then yeah, we had everything with the mother, which was interesting. You know, again, just this whole thing of, you know, she feels shame for Amuro being her son just because, you know, he's a killer. But again, I don't think that's anybody's fault really, because yeah, a war changes you. It's like he can't really, unfortunately, he can't afford that, you know? He can't afford some of this stuff. Now, should he kill, you know, in the grand scheme of things, you know, of course not. Nobody should take another human life, but he is also in a war, and it's like there's some things he has had to do, you know, and she doesn't know that, you know. She sees that he is a soldier, but she doesn't understand until the end. But it has definitely changed him, and probably it was right after that's you know, that's why the burnout hit him, you know. But I mean, luckily Ryu was right. That was like, well, we'll just throw him into the action. That'll knock some sense into him. And sure enough, it did. But yeah, so that was good. And they did not defeat. They basically had a draw with the other guy. Oh yeah, there was the whole thing with you know, Germa's, you know, fiance basically, which was interesting. But yeah, but we had the whole thing with I can't even remember his name, but the other guy who was in charge of that ship, and he had a more powerful mech. He didn't just have a Zuka. So yeah, that was an interesting fight. And then capping it off with Giran, you know, announcing his resolve to defeat the Earth Federation. So yeah, that's a good place to end it. That is a definite good place to end it. Whew. This was a lot. This was a whole lot of movie, but I mean, how many episodes did they adapt into 2 hours and 20 minutes? I don't know, but it was really good. It was a very, very good compilation of those episodes, and definitely, like, this is definitely a good way. I mean, I almost feel like if you do have the time, you should probably watch the series, but for me, I mean, it's the same thing, like, I'm watching through Demon Slayer right now, and I reacted to the movie, Mugen Train, as opposed to the, you know, 7 episodes, basically, that adapt the Mugen Train arc. So I did the movie, and now I'm moving on into the next arc after it, and it just kind of works out a little bit better. But if you have the time, there's no real reason not to watch the arc. You know, the movie is great, but you could also watch that. It just depends on preference. And honestly, this is the same way, where it's like, yeah, you could easily watch, you know, this movie and you can get into it. I got into it, certainly, but I would be curious about the anime series itself. So what did you think? Have you seen Mobile Suit Gundam? I mean, I hope you've seen some of it, just on the fact that you're watching this reaction. But have you seen the series? Have you seen the movie? Have you seen both? I don't know. Either way, I really enjoyed this, and I will definitely be watching the other two, and they will be up on the channel at some point. I make no guarantees on when movie reactions come out anymore, but yeah. But that is basically it. With all that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist, I guess, for all of my Mobile Suit Gundam reactions, if you, which we'll fill out later, as well as another playlist for all of my movie reactions if you want to go check out more of those. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.